Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 17 of my Design Patterns video tutorial. Today we're going to talk about the Iterator Design Pattern. So what exactly is the Iterator Design Pattern? Well, this pattern is going to provide you with a uniform way to access different types of collections of objects. So for example, if you get an array list, and a hash table that are all full of the same type of objects, you could pop out an iterator for each and treat them the same. What this does for you is provides a uniform way to cycle through all of these different types of collections. And on top of that, you're also going to be able to write polymorphic code because you can refer to each collection of objects in the same way because they are going to implement the same interface. Now, if that sounds confusing, don't worry about it. I think this is 100% understandable if you just watch an example. So what I'm going to do is just jump directly right into the code. Okay, so here we are. So in this situation, I'm going to use a kind of real-world example. Let's say you wanted to get information from the top 70s, the top 80s, and the top 90s disc jockeys, people that play music on the radio. And as a programmer, what you tell them is you want them to provide you with an object, and each one of those objects is going to be based off of song info, which means they're going to give you a song name, a band name, and the year that it was released. On top of that, now that they know this is the object they have to use, you tell them that they all must use a function named add song for adding both the song, the band, and the release. And on top of that, they have to use a function called get best songs that will return the collection of songs. The one thing you forgot to tell them is to use the same collection. So in this situation, the DJ from the 70s is going to send you an array list. From the 80s is going to send you an array of these objects. And then the guy from the 90s is going to send you a hash table. Now what you could do, of course, is say, no, wait a minute, I forgot to tell you, I want all of these to be of the same type. But being a programmer, you're just going to make things work. So here we go. Here is the song info class. And all of the code is available underneath the video, and if you want to 100% understand this stuff, you should go get it. So let's just jump right into it. First thing we're going to do here is go to Songs of the 70s, and we're going to look at the type of information that we could be expecting from somebody like this. Alright, so they're going to send us Java, util, and this guy's going to send us an array list. So we're going to need that. And a little bit later on, we're going to need the iterator library, so we might as well just put it in here right now. So there we are. Okay, and then we're going to create our class. So this is going to be public class, songs of the 70s. Then we're just going to come in here and create an array list, and it's going to contain song info objects, just like we told them, and it's going to be called best songs. Course, make that capital. Alright, now that we have that, we're going to create a constructor for this guy. Songs of the 70s, this, and we're going to go best songs. And what I'm going to do the first time is show you the problem and show you how to force it to work in the wrong way or in a bad way, actually in a very obvious way. And then I'm going to show you how to use the Iterator Design Pattern to do it in a much neater way. So we told them add song needed to be used, and these songs are just purely copied, so it doesn't have anything to do with my musical taste. It's just what popped up on a website. So don't attack me if you don't like these songs. I'm going to have the add song method, which I'm going to create here in a second. And then we're going to add another song and a final song. So there you go. We're creating the array list and we're adding the song information to this guy inside of the constructor. So what do we have to do now? And this is what you're going to be receiving. So we'll go public and you're going to be forced to work with it in a good way. So we need to actually come in here and allow them to call the add song method, song name, string, band name, int, year released. So there's all that information that's going to be sent to this guy. And then we're going to have to come in here and go song info is going to be equal to new song info. Song name is going to be passed, band name, and year released. So that's going to create our song info object, and then to the array list we're going to call add song info. So each time this is called up here, add song, then this is going to be called down here, and then put int there. Then we're going to do this in kind of the wrong way. And like I said, I'm going to show you how to do it in the obvious way, and then I'm going to show you how to do it in a less obvious but a much nicer way. So this is going to return an array list of type song info, and best songs is going to return the array list. So just return best songs. And that's all we need to do. So it's not messy by any means. It's actually good code, but we have to figure out how to use it for our own situation. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to go into songs of the 80s, bounce in here, paste that in there, and then we're just going to need to change this to the 80s and this to the 80s. And then this guy's going to send us an array list, or an array that's going to have song info items inside of it. I'm going to leave all the rest of that the same. And then this guy right here is going to need to be changed into a song info array, and I'm going to call it best songs as well. And then I'm going to put an integer inside of here that's going to allow us to increment to the next position in our array. So I'm just going to give that a value of 0 in the beginning. Best songs right here. I'm just going to get rid of this part and go song info and say this needs to be 3 in length. And then all of this is going to remain pretty much the same. I'm just going to change the band names here real quick. And there we go. Now we got some new band names inside of there. And then I need to add the song info objects to an array and then increment to the next position. So this guy right here is going to remain exactly the same, but this guy here is not. We're going to instead go best songs and then go array value. See, that's what we're doing there in regards to incrementing that. And then we're going to add a song object to that and then go array out value, write that, and increment it. So that's pretty cool. And then down here, of course, now we're going to be returning an array full of song info objects. So we just need to change that, and everything else is fine. So we don't need to change anything else. And we can just come in here and copy that. And now we're going to go into songs of the 90s, paste that inside of there. And then for songs of the 90s, this guy's going to be sending me a hash table. So we need to get the hash table library there. I'll leave everything else the same. Come in here. These guys are going to change because we're going to be holding a hash table that's going to have an integer object inside of there as the key, and then song info as the actual value. And I'm going to call it best songs, just like before, is equal to new. And then it's going to be hash table, exactly the same here as we have on the left side, except we're going to go like this and like that. So that's going to create our hash table for us. And then we're also going to increment the hash key here, and I'm going to give it an initial value of 0. So we're going to increment it in much the same way that we were incrementing the array. And then of course we need to change this to songs of the 90s and song of the 90s, just like that. We're not going to need to initialize anything because we already did that, so that's good. And then I'm just going to throw in some more songs. And there we are. There's 3 additional songs. And then down inside of here, we're going to get rid of this guy right here. And we're going to type in, actually, I just need to knock off the end. And I'm going to call put, which is going to ask for a hash key. And then it's going to ask for the object that's going to go inside of there. Get rid of that. And then I just need to increment my hash key. And then, of course, down here, we're going to be returning this hash key right here. So I'm just going to copy it. And there you are. And then we're going to save it. So now we got songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So let's go and let's actually take a look at exactly how these are going to work. And I'm going to do that in a class called diskjockey.java. It's going to handle putting all this stuff together. So I'm going to need to get a whole bunch of different libraries in here. Till array list and enumeration and hash table, of course. And the code I'm going to show you here in a second, it definitely works. It's just not neat. And it's obviously not using the Iterator Design Pattern. And then public class, diskjockey, and then it's going to go songs of the 70s, and then I'm just going to call this songs 70s, and then I have to do exactly the same thing for our other 2 classes, which is, the only thing's different here is the 80s and 90s. And then I'm going to go public diskjockey, create this constructor here, and then it's going to get past all of these values. So let's bounce in there, paste that in there, change that to that, change that to that, and then I'm just going to call this new, which doesn't matter, I just like to do it that way. There we are. And then, of course, take that there. And then this is going to be really simple. We're just going to go songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Paste that in there. And then we're just going to go equals, like that. Actually, makes it a lot simpler just to copy that. Paste that 3 times, and then change this to 80s and 90s. So we're just assigning those objects that are being passed over into our own special place inside of our class. So I guess to a certain extent, this is kind of a review of using collections. So now we need to implement a method, public void show the songs. And I'm going to show you how you would iterate through all these different types of classes if you didn't know about the Iterator Design Pattern. Because all of the song info objects are going to be stored in different collections, everything, of course, needs to be handled on an individual basis, which is terrible, but that's what's going to happen. So I'm just going to call this AL 70s songs. That's an array list, songs 70s dot, and then I'm just going to call get best songs. Okay, so we got our array list with all our songs in it. Then I'm going to go system out, print line, and I'm going to say songs of the 70s, and then throw a new line in there on top of that, just for the heck of it. And then what do I need to do? Well, I'm going to create a for loop here. I is equal to 0 while I is less than. Going to get this array list that we just saved everything to, and call size on this. Since it's an array list, we need to get the length of the total number of objects in the array list, like that. And then we're going to cycle through all these. And the first thing we're going to do is go song info best songs, and then we're going to song list. We need to cast this to a song list object, array list 70s songs get, and then we have to tell it what index to get, that's the reason why we have the for loop. Oops, this is actually song info. Remember, we're using this song info class that we looked at earlier, this guy. All right, so now that we have that, we're just gonna have to print out the name of the song and the name of the band and all this other different stuff. So we just need to go best songs and go get song name, which is saved over in that class. And then we're just going to copy this. And then instead of get song name, we're going to go get band name. And then here, get release year. So there we go. So pretty easy. Giving me a little bit of an error. Let's see why. Get year released. Okay. So let's just go year released. And then jump back over into disc jockey and type in year released. And there we are. So there we go. This is going to work perfectly fine for our array list that is full of song info objects. So now we also, this is the pain in the butt part. So you're never going to do this after this tutorial. Now we need to do a similar thing, except this time we're going to do it with an array. This is no longer an array list. It's going to be song info, like that. And I'm just going to call this array 80 songs. Change this to 80s. Get best songs. All that's going to work still. Change this to 80s. And then this guy, we're going to be going through an array now. So paste that in there. And then this time we're going to call length, because that's what you do with an array. And then down here, we're going to leave this song info, best songs, except this is going to be this guy right here. So let's just copy that, paste that there. And then this is going to be I. So got all that. And then everything else needs to say exactly the same. So in general, it's good code. It's just, this is too much. So then we got to do the same exact thing for hash tables. And we shall. So paste that in there. Now you're going to see how to cycle through hash tables with objects in them. So what are we going to do? We're going to, first off, we're going to jump over to songs of the 90s. And we're going to copy this because I don't feel like typing all that out again. And then jump back over into disc jockey. And then this is going to be that very specific type of hash table. And then here, we're going to call this HT90 songs. And everything else is going to be the same on that line. See? Good code, just messy. This is going to be changed to songs of the 90s. And then the for loop down here, instead of using this stuff, we're going to use an enumeration that's going to hold our keys for us. So remember, we were using integers. And I'm just going to call this E is equal to HT 90s songs. And then we're going to go key. Then I'm going to go E. So while I have more elements in this hash table, I want to continue this looping. So that's all that's going on there. This is going to stay the same, except, and we're going to go HT90 songs, paste this in there, and then we're going to go call get, and then E, we have to give it our key, which next element is going to have the value for our key, and then everything else can be exactly the same. So there we go. It's kind of long-winded, but it's still good code, so you can't really complain. So now let's file save that, and I'll show you how all this is going to work. I'm going to go into radiostation.java. And this is going to work very easily. We're going to go public class, radio station, and then we're going to go public static void main string. There's that. Args. And then I'm going to go songs of the 70s, songs 70s is equal to new songs of the 70s. So we're going to create this object here, right like that. So very simple, still pretty neat. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing for songs of the 80s as well as the 90s. And there, and there. There we are. And now if we want to call these, we're going to go disc jockey. And we're going to say our disc jockey has the name Mad Mike. We're going to go new disc jockey. And we're going to send him over songs of the 70s for him to play. Songs, and this is going to be 80s, and then this is going to be 90s. So, pretty simple. And then to get Mad Mike to play these guys, we're going to go Mad Mike, show the songs. And if we did everything right, and we run this, it shall work. And there you can see it did. Okay, see it prints out songs of the 70s, and then you get Imagine, John Lennon, American Pie, blah, 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 blah. Songs of the 80s, and Rome, and all these other different things, and songs of the 90s. So hey, it works, so why complain about it? Well, the reason why is it's possible to make it work that much better. It's really the difference between being a great programmer and an okay programmer. And how we're going to make this work beautifully is we're going to create ourselves a new interface, and it's going to be called song-iterator.java. This is going to allow me to refer to everything as a song iterator. Every single one of these previous classes that we created will now be referred to as one. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is import our Java iterator library. And then we're going to go public interface song iterator, and then we're going to go public iterator. This is going to be the class that has to be created, and it's going to be called create iterator. Not much work to put into creating something that's going to make everything really, really cool. So let's file save that, and then to make all this work, we're going to jump into songs of the 70s.java, and we just need to go implements song iterator, right like that, and then it's going to give us an error message. Songs of the 70s is going to say, hey, you need to bring in some unimplemented methods, and we shall click on that. Then we need to scroll down right here, and we need to just pop out an iterator that's going to make it easier to use this guy. And before we do that, we can come in here and say, hey, we don't need this anymore, which is a mess. We don't want them to send back an array list because that's not neat and that's not good coding. So there, that's gone. And then come in here to public iterator, and then what it's going to do is return an iterator here. It's going to allow us to easily bounce through everything we got here, and we're going to go return best songs. And what's best songs? Best songs, you see it everywhere. This is the array list. See? Best songs, this is the array list. And then all we need to do is, instead of bouncing back an array list, we need to bounce back an iterator. And you do that just by doing that. And there we are. Well, we did a lot. Okay, pretty cool. So now we need to do the same thing with songs of the 80s.java. So we're going to come in here and go implements song iterator. See, another thing that's great about this is we're not changing that much code. Always a good thing. Come in here, add unimplemented methods, bounce down to the bottom of the screen, come in here, remember where we're sending back an array. Well, we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to send an iterator, and there we are. So got rid of that. Get rid of this if you want. And then down here, instead of sending back an array like we were doing before, we're instead going to send back an iterator, of course. And to do that, we go arrays as list, and then send it best songs, which is the name of our array inside of here, and then call it iterator like that, and there we are. Now it's an iterator, and now at least it's sending back an iterator. So let's save that. Now let's go fix songs of the 90s. See how easy this is? And then what are we going to do? We're going to go implements song iterator like that, file save it, and it's going to say, hey, you need to implement some stuff. No problem, go implement that. Scroll down. Okay, we don't want to return a hash table anymore because that's not good, and let's get rid of that. Of course, you delete it normally. And then down here, now we need to send back an iterator for the hash table instead of a hash table. And to do that, we're just going to come in here and go best songs, which is the name of my hash table. Type in values like that, dot iterator. I'll save. There you are, done. So now what's left to do? Since that was so simple, well, of course, we need to go into diskjockey.java and save or change everything we got here. So now instead of passing this stuff here, we're going to create song iterator. See, we're going to refer to everything that implements the song iterator interface as a song interface. See, we're able to refer to everything as if it's the same thing. Always a good thing. So we're going to refer to it as a song iterator, and I'm just going to call this iter 70s songs. Okay, got that set up. Copy. And then here we're going to go 80s and we're going to go 90s. See, we can refer to everything now as a iterator, which is always great. And then we need to get rid of this guy altogether. So let's just delete it. The disc jockey, or better yet, let's just change this from songs of the 70s to song iterator. So copy, song iterator, like that. And this is going to be song iterator. And this is going to be song iterator. There that goes. I'm going to leave everything else have the same name. And then song 70s is going to be new song 70s. And then we're going to need to change song 70s to iter 70s right there. So this is an interface. And then this is going to be the interface that's going to represent the 80s. And this is going to be the interface that represents the 90s. So there we are. Now we got that set. And then I'm just going to skip this whole thing, show the songs. So let's just leave that there in the code so that you can look at it later and see the way not to do this. And now what I'm going to do is treat everything as an iterator. So we're going to go public void, and I'm going to call this show the songs 2 just for brevity, and then I'm going to go iterator songs 70s is equal to iterator 70s songs, and call create iterator like that. Pretty simple. Copy that. Now we need to do the same thing for the 80s and the 90s. 80s, 90s. There we are. Done. So now we have those all set up, and watch how easy it is to now print everything out properly. Print line. I'm going to go songs of the 70s, throw in a new line, and then to print out, print the songs, which I'm going to create here in a half a second. Songs 70s, right like this. Change that to uppercase. And actually I'm going to do it right now, just so you can see it here all on one screen. We're going to go public void, print the songs, and it's going to get an iterator sent to it. Iterator, like that. And then we're going to go while. See, we're going to be able to treat every one of these, even though they're different collection types, as if they're one. So as long as we have more elements in our iterator, we're going to print out information. So look at this. I can just copy this. Copy. Now instead of doing that 3 times, I only have to do it 1 time. So like this, and go song info, and I'm just going to call this song info is equal to iterator next, like that, and it's going to tell me I need to cast it, which I'm just going to click on it, say good, cast it into a song info object, and then down here I just need to change these into song info, paste, paste, and paste. So file save. And then we need to jump over into Radio Station now that the disc jockey is prepared. And am I going to have to do a whole bunch of changes here to make this work, even though it's so much cleaner? Nope, just that. I just changed that to show the songs too, and then I'm going to execute it. And you can see it pops up, songs of the 70s, and there is Imagine American Pie, da-da-da-da. And you may say, well, where's the rest of them? Well, the reason why they're not there is, I don't know if you remember, but I didn't create them. So if I want to print out the 80s and 90s, no problem. Let's go like this, change that to 80s, change that to 90s, change that to 80s, change that to 90s. File save. Don't need to change this at all now. Jump back over into radiostation.java, and there you see, print out all of those. There's songs of the 70s, songs of the 80s, and songs of the 90s. So there you go. That is how to use the Iterator Design Pattern. It's a little bit to wrap your head around, but remember, if our ultimate goal is to be a great programmer rather than an okay programmer, study this stuff and understand it, and you'll get there. Leave any questions or comments below. Otherwise, till next time.